sale or not? That is the question. Rav Huna says it is. Tulu b'zovin zvine zvine. I've already posted a very interesting thing on the group.
Yeah, what was that?
I think it was from his son-in-law Ben. It's about the manuscript version of the word tuluhu. There's a big debate over this word taluhu. What does it mean? The taluhu seems to mean that they hung him up. But there is another version, another text here, which has the word. I think there are others that have the girsa. I think is taluhu. Basically, I think the question is it they hung him up or they hung the item up? Talahu maybe. Yeah, or they hung it up. Basically, he said, until you pay, you're not going to be able to get to it, or something like that. I'm not going to give it to you, or something. There was a. But either way, that's what Rav Huna holds. So the question is why, and the Gemora says, "Svorahu agavon segomar makne." 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down from Memches Amadalef. It's svara. It's logical because he's being forced. Gomar makne. Because he's being forced, he will definitely decide to sell it, which is a very, very interesting concept. We try to prove it from Gittin. We said no, Gittin is different because it's a mitzvah l'shma derech Chacham. It's a mitzvah, so you can't use the logic of Gittin. And we said there's a separate svara here. Rashbam explains there are two factors here. Number one, he's suffering. He's suffering. And number two, he's receiving money. So the two of them together means that basically yes, it's true there's duress involved, but he agrees to it. In other words, he accepts it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's very, very interesting because Tosfos here asks, for example, since it's a svara, right? It's a logical thing. What's the logic? The logic is that because he's being pressured to do it, he makes a decision to do it. So Tosfos says, why therefore do we need a posuk with a korban? Beforehand we brought with a korban, we said that you need a posuk. According to his will, you force him until he says he wants to do it. You learn that all from psukim. Why don't you psukim for that? I know it from a logical. If I know it from svara, yeah, that he agrees to do it because he's being pushed to do it. So therefore, why is it that we don't say that's enough? The Tosfos says because without the korban, without the posuk, I would have said that yes, it's true that he makes a decision to do it, but since it's only through being forced, I might say it's possible for the mizbech because it's still called. Well, he says zevach rishayim. This is a posuk. It says zevach rishayim to'eva. The korban of a rishayim is considered to be an abomination. The chiddush is that even the korban works. That's why we needed a posuk for a korban, right? That the korban is accepted, so to speak, right? By the way, that's what the Gemora says. That's the argument that the Gemora makes, and we discussed last time how in fact we said it's a bit difficult to understand how exactly this works, right? If you remember, second, where is it? Okay, well, let's leave it like that for now. That's what the Gemara says. Now, the Gemara asks a question on this. It's not so simple. The Gemara asks, Moshe Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda asks a question from a brayso. Get a Moshe Yisrael kosher. We said that a get, which is forced, there are different ways of forcing a get. A get which is forced by someone Jewish, Yisrael, kosher. The get is kosher. What does that mean? Yisrael forces him. The Yisrael forces him to give the get, and he says, "I want to do it." The halacha is the get is kosher, but akum posel. But if it's an akum, if it's a non-Jew who does it, then posel, it's posel. Okay, what does it mean akum posel? Even though he says, "I want to do it," okay. Now the Gemara thinks at this stage that the reason why it's kosher with Yisrael is because of the din, the mitzvah l'shma derech Chachomim. It's a mitzvah to listen to the Chachomim. But with an akum, a non-Jew, it's posel because there's no mitzvah. Okay, and this is a problem for Rav Huna, because Rav Huna says, regardless of whether there's a mitzvah, because he's being pushed to do it, It should be kosher. It should be kosher. Why is that?
We were getting free will.
Yes. He said, Roitza'ani, I want to do it. So the Brisa, or maybe it's a Mishnah, says that if it's forced by Yisrael, then it's kosher. If it's a non-Jew forcing him, then it's possible. With a goy, you can say he's allowed to beat him, and he says he's allowed to say to him, but basically as a shliach of the Yisrael, do what the Yisrael is telling you to do. You should do what the Yisrael is telling you to do, right? Now, he can act as an agent, in other words. The Gemara's question, the Gemara spelled out the question, Va'amai, why should this be? Why should it be that the get is possible if the person forcing is a Gentile? Name Hosom Nami, there is what we should say. Name what we should say. Agav Onse Gomer Magaresh. That because he's being forced, he therefore decided and concluded in his mind to be Magaresh, to divorce. Again, both factors here are present. This is the way the question, this is what the question is, right? If you say the reason with the get that it's kosher is because since there's really a mitzvah to listen to what the Chachamim say, deep down every Jew wants to do the right thing, yeah? He wants to do, right? It's a mitzvah to listen to the Chachamim, and everyone wants to do the right thing, even though he was kicking and screaming. But the halacha is that we say, okay, well, since we know you really want to do the right thing, and therefore we pushed you until you said Roitzani and you want to do it, and because of the mitzvah, really you did want to do it. So because of that extra factor, you're fulfilling a mitzvah, what the Chachamim told you to do, right? If that's the case, it shouldn't make a difference, right? Who is forcing you, whether it's Yisrael or a Goy, it should make absolutely no difference, right? Sorry, the other way around, sorry. If that's the reason, then it makes sense why there's a difference in Yisrael and a Goy, because there's only a mitzvah to listen to Chachamim if Yisrael is forcing you. If the Goy is forcing you, for whatever reason he's forcing you, then there's to give the get, I don't know, maybe he's trying to defend the woman or whatever, right? There's no reason to mitzvah to listen to the Chachamim. So it makes sense. But if the reason is like Rafuna says, that whenever you've got both factors present, we say that you'll do it willingly. What are the two factors? Number one, that you're being forced. Yeah. You want them off your back because you're being forced. And number two, you're not losing any money. Because that was the case for Rafuna, you're not losing any money. With the get, you're also not losing anything. You're not losing anything. Why did a person not give a get? He doesn't financially gain from it. Interesting question whether maybe sometimes there could be a side, there could be side benefits. I mean, all sorts of terrible things go on with our goodness. But yeah, basically the norm, again, unless there's coercion and extortion and blackmail involved, which sadly does happen as well, yeah. He's holding out for cash, that can also happen, right? But leave that aside for a moment. The standard reason why a person is holding a get is just because it's a nasty piece of work. Right? It's how it is, right? It's just because it's nasty, we see everything in the Beis Din, but you see people who are just genuinely nasty people, unfortunately. All they want to do is they're just spiteful. They've got themselves into a hole, or there's been years and years of what they consider to be their agrees, whatever the reason is, right? It isn't usually the Gemora takes on a financial benefit as such, okay? And as a result, both factors are present here. So if the svara is true, if the logic of Rav Huna is true, that because a person is being forced, therefore we assume they actually conclude to do it, who cares whether it's the Goy or the Yisrael forcing you? Either way, it should be a kosher get.
You can say in these days
to do what?
Divorce.
What's the ksuba going to do? Yeah, but it's not a crazy amount of money. There's a discussion how much it's worth in today's money and how you work it out, whatever. But it's true that he's going to have to pay the ksuba.
Right. But also, might use whatever it is as part of it.
It's going to.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There might be other stuff that as you say, things that brought into the marriage.
He's also got responsibilities, financial responsibilities.
Yeah, but that's what Jeremy's saying.
You lose though.
No, so Jeremy's saying that he doesn't want to give the get because he doesn't want to have to pay that stuff.
No, but if he does give a get, he's still got responsibilities to maintain.
Yeah.
But one thing is that there's a lot. Sometimes the wife brings items into the marriage.
Yes.
That she gets back.
Yeah.
I'm not in marriage.
He gets to keep what benefit from.
Okay, so I think it works like this. I think there's an assumption that whatever he's going to pay upon divorcing her is probably going to be less than he's having to pay to support her.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's fine.
Although in this case, it was during the marriage. In this case, the point that Rashbam makes, as we'll see, is that she doesn't like him anyway. She hates his guts. So she's not there anyway. She's left a long time ago. They're separated a long time ago. I mean, as is the norm nowadays as well, but they're separated a long time ago, right? So she's not, or however long it was. So she's not there anyway. So that the reason of the get is only to allow her to remarry. She's not in the marital home anyway. There's no like, he's not looking after her. He's not, there's nothing between them. It's just in order. Yeah. I mean, in fact, it's a big problem nowadays. You know that because for legal reasons, they don't want to leave. And has a big problem. There's a big problem halachically. Because a get cannot be served while they're living at the same address. Because it's also they're not allowed to live at the same address once they're divorced. But that's why almost always the get is given until the financials are sorted out with the courts.
The end.
As far as I know. What?
Gets given right at the end.
I think so. Because they don't normally want to leave. I think so. I mean, sometimes they get the decree absolute. They don't call it decree absolute anymore. They call it final order. But you know, they've changed the rules now. There's no decree nice and decree absolute now. It's called a final order. It's one thing. But anyway, normally it's given. I think it's normally given beforehand. They certainly don't give the get certificate, and unless the civil side has been fulfilled. That's certainly the policy that London based in. But the point is that normally the spouses don't want to leave the home unless the financial settlement has been made, because otherwise they lose financially their stake in the home or something like that. But it's a problem halachically. So the two things often contradict. It's a big problem. Anyway, so the point is that that's what we go. That's what's going on here now. The halacha is that since so that's the most question. The most question is, here's what we should say. If he's being forced to do it, who cares who's forcing it? The Gemora says, it was taught on this case. Omar of Mashashir said, Torah, according to the Torah, afilu ba'akum nami kosher. It's also kosher with a goy. That means minat Torah, it's kosher with a goy as well. Why did they say that it was possible with a goy? Okay, so now we're going straight into Rav Huna. We're fine. Rav Mashashir says, minat Torah, it makes no difference who's forcing. Okay, Israel goy. Why? Because Rav Huna's svara. That in a place where a person is under duress and he's not losing financially, halacha is we assume that when you agree to it, you say, okay, you agree to it because of the pressure. That's the point, right? You agree to it, right? And we accept that. So Ramashash says that's the din min Torah. Very interesting reason. So why did the Chazal say that it's possible if a get is forced by a goy? If the goy is acting for the Yisrael, that's okay. But if the goy is just forcing himself, why did they say the get is possible? Otherwise, every woman who's not happy at home will go and literally hang herself with a goy. Here it doesn't mean hang as in hang from a tree. Here it means she will go and elope with a goy. And she will be able to remove herself from her husband. Basically, it's a way. It would be a way of forcing the husband to divorce her. Okay.
Once she's done, he can't move back anyway.
Well, that's an interesting point. But it doesn't seem to be that. The Rashbam says it is nus, but yes. Well, yeah.
She's in love with someone else.
No, an ish is ish, an ish is ish, who has a sexual relationship with another man when she's married to man A, is then also to her husband. So that's halacha, right? Also to her husband, also the baal, also the baal. That's halacha, right? However, if she has a relationship with a guy, she also also to her husband. Then sota doesn't apply to a guy. If he's a kohen, I don't think she's also to her husband if it's a guy. If she's a kohen, obviously, because she's disqualified for the kohana. I don't think it's not echad l'baal if it's a guy. I don't think so. Rashbam also doesn't quite say that. It just it forces her husband to divorce her. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this is what it says. So he says like this. Let's see the Rashbam on this. He explains in more detail. Get Hamausa, about halfway down the narrow lines. Get Hamausa Shekofin Osola Baal Hotzi, but they forced the Baal to divorce to divorce in Bisralu, if it was that's what Get Hamausa is, a forced get, right? If in Bisralu, if it's Yisrael kosher, then it's kosher. Shekafu Yisrael forced him. The case where he says I want to do it. But Akum possible if it's a goy, it's possible. Avagav the Amaritzani, even though he says I want to, because Agadaitach the maksha, the question of thought to be Yisrael kosher. Why is it kosher with Yisrael? Because there's a mitzvah to listen to Chachomim. Ba'akum possible with a goy, it's possible. Given the leiko mitzvah, there's no mitzvah because it's the goy forcing it. Agav say no gomar megarish, because he's being forced. He doesn't make the definite decision to divorce, right? He doesn't want to do the pressure. There's no mitzvah, so we don't say, oh, because he's pressured, that's why he wants to divorce. Or he makes the decision to divorce. This is a question on Rafuna. Because this proves that when there's no mitzvah present, we don't say that he makes the kinyan, he's makna, he transfers ownership, right? Because he's being forced alone, right? The Basra finishes off, but akum, if we do want to force him through a non-Jew, you want to get the heavy guys involved. Yeah, get kosher, but you want the get still to be kosher. What do? We teach the akum sheyom rulo. They should say to him, do what the Jew is telling you to do. Because now there will be a mitzvah to listen to Chachomim. In other words, you can bring in the mafia. Yeah, you can bring in the mafia, and you can say to the mafia, make sure that when you do whatever dirty tricks you're going to do to make him give the get. I'm not saying we advocate this, but I'm just saying that's the meaning of the Gemora. Yeah, you say to them, look, you do whatever you need to do behind down dark alleys, but make sure you say that we're doing this to you as a shliach of the Yisrael. It's not us. It's not us. We're just getting up. We're just being paid. Business is business. They're hired. So the Gemara says, there is one name Garish, there as well. We should say, this is the key question. The question of Rafana is, we should say that because he's being forced, he should make a decision to be Megarish, and it should work whether it's a Jew or a non-Jew. To hollow mafsid midi, because he's not losing anything. This is what I explained to you before. Dumi disvini, like the case of the sale, Shemakabel Dmei Sodeu, when he receives the value of his field. The Kivon Sheishto Senaso, because since his wife hates him, below get Namilo Samudetzlo, she's not staying with him regardless of the get. She's not living with him. Makes sense, right? Regardless of the get. The get Zaino Elo Lahatira La Acherim. And this get is anyway only to permit her to marry someone else. That is the purpose. Therefore, Lo Mafsid Klum. He's not losing anything. It's interesting. Jeremy's point is still a very valid point, because he's not paying anything because she's not with him. Okay, fine. So she doesn't take anything from him because she's not there. But when he divorces her, she can waive the ksuba, right? She can waive the ksuba and say, "Keep him with the ksuba." But maybe she's not doing that because she's not here anyway. Or at least it's not necessarily the case that she's claiming the ksuba. They're two separate things. There's the get and there's the ksuba. I mean, as a matter of practically speaking, like nowadays, I don't know. I can't remember exactly how it works in terms of the ksuba, but the key focus is on providing the get. But in reality, practically speaking, with gittin, you see every type of permutation. You know, where the wife wants and the husband doesn't want, the husband wants and the wife doesn't want, or they both don't want, or they both left it for years and they're doing it.
It's very interesting.
I think I told you this. You can see like extreme cases. You can see a case where you can have two gittin on the same day. One where sadly they were married for a couple of months, it just didn't work out. Very young, whatever. It didn't work out. Give chizuk. What can you do? Very sad. And you can have others where they're like they haven't been together for 30 years anyway. No, like 20 years. They never actually gave a get. Now all of a sudden one of them wants to get married. So I mean that's not right, obviously, but this does go on. Big problem it's a problem if they know she's been with someone else in the meantime. We had a case like that, I remember. And we couldn't allow her to marry because she was already civilly married to the guy she wanted to marry. She's been an aguna for many years. And in the meantime, so she was difficult, she had children, whatever. Her husband refused to give a get, so she was an aguna. And so she got civilly married to this other guy. So we said, we're really sorry, we can't help you. because she's also to him. Yeah. Anyway, so we carry on. The Gemora now says, I feel also sorry. So I feel about Akum Kosher. The Rashbam carries on.
She's also to the person she's getting the get from, or would be getting.
No, she's also the Baal and the Baal.
Right.
What?
No, I think you're making a chiddush that if you put yourself in a situation where you're also to your Baal, then you can't get a get from the Baal.
No. She can get a get from the Baal. She can't go back to marry him again. Here she's also to the person, even though she was separated, from the husband for, let's say, many years. The reality is in halacha she's still married. So if she has an intimate relationship with someone else in the meantime that we know about, obviously, it was clear they were married, right? Civilly, yeah. Then she's not allowed to marry him.
Yes, but she's not get a get.
Pardon?
She can get a get.
No. Too late.
Yeah, I think she wants to remain married to the second
She had a relationship with this other man while she was still married. What she got to get?
husband. Yeah.
Yes.
She can still
Yes,
get
now she can get the get, but she wanted to marry the second guy. Normally, no, look, we don't have to ask like all the detailed questions. You know what I mean? Like we're not mechuyev to go and ask, whether or not they were together before she received the get, etc., etc. But in a case where it is clear they were civilly married before, and the civil marriage was before the date, they're living at the same address in Syria. You know what I mean? They're telling us, what? Yeah, but when it was, yeah, then it's different. Anyway, so we carry on. About even with a guy, it's kosher because because of the pressure, he makes the decision. He makes the we should say that he definitely decides to divorce because he isn't losing anything. As we explained, the Gemora said the answer is like this: Minatora. Sorry, Minatora. It's kosher because we say the Svara of Huna. Because being pressured, he makes the decision to divorce because he's not losing anything, right? However, why did they say that it is possible? It was a separate din midrabanon. So you understand, Rav Huna's svara stands. Minatzeret it's kosher. Why? Because we assume that people actually do. They made the decision to divorce, but here to go with the pressure that's being put under, if they're not losing financially. Here, why is it that we say it's possible? It's a din drabonon. Possible midrabanon tzricha get acher, and she needs another get. However, in poshti yodav kibla kiddushin me'acher tzricha get mizeh mizeh. Hashem is telling you there's enough gemina here because she's divorced minat Torah, and it was only a din drabonon to say that the get is disqualified. Let's say someone else gives her kiddushin in the meantime, so the get is possible midrabanon. Minat Torah it's kosher. So if she accepts kiddushin from someone else, she's going to need a get from both of them because she's in a limbo state. Do you understand? Minat Torah is a kosher get. The Rabbanon say it's possible. Okay. What was the concern? She might go and hang herself with a non-Jew to flatten him, to commit znus with him until she forces her husband to divorce her. Until that's the way the Rashbam explains it. That's the concern. Until she forces her husband to divorce her. So therefore, that's why the Chachomim said in this case it's possible with a goy. So we have saved Rav Huna from that attack. But now we're going to try and attack him from the Mishnah in Gittin that we brought before, with the case of the Sikrikoin. Rav Hamnuna asked a question. What do we say? He said, if a person buys from the Sikrikoin, who's the Sikrikoin? The Sikrikoin was the terrorists, yeah? Who used to attack people and everything else, the scary people, and they threaten them with death if they don't sell the thing. A person buys from a Sikrikoin who has forcibly taken the land from someone else, and then he goes and takes it from the Balabayas. The halacha is mitchoi botel. The sale is nullified. But why? Hasam Nami there as well. Neymar, Agav, and say Gemora Makni. Why don't we say that because he's under pressure, because he's being pressured, Rav Huna's svara should apply. We assume that he actually really did mean it. Yeah. The Gemara says, well, it's my law. We said on that Mishnah earlier on, Rav said, the whole case only applied when he said to him, go and make a chazaka, go and acquire it, like dig a bit in the land, make a chazaka. This type of chazaka is where you make it do a sign of acquisition, right? But if there was a document, then it is perfectly kosher. That means to say that there was a document. Pardon? Yeah, it seems to be a document of sale. It seems to be, or at least there's a sale present. So we've qualified this din. We've said, you know why the sale is nullified? Because he's lost out. The case is, Rav says, the only scenario where we say the sale is nullified is when the original owner just says, okay, he's scared of the Sikra coin. So he says to the guy who comes to take it from him, he says, here you go, just make a kinyan. Dig on the land and acquire the land and whatever that makes it, make a kinyan for yourself, right? And that makes sense then. Whereas if there's a shtar, if there's a proper document given, then he does acquire it, and that would fit with the Rav Huna. Because there's a proper sale, it would seem that it's taken place. I think the shtar implies that there's a sale. I think that's what it means. Let me just see whatever I'll say. He wrote a shtar, yeah. You see, Rab said before, we said this before, that if there's a shtar, we assume that he definitely agreed to transfer ownership. It's not clear there was money, right? It's not clear there was money, right? It's not clear there was money, but there was a definite shtar is a proof. If you wrote a shtar, it's a proof that he actually intended it to change hands. The Gemora says, according to Shmuel, who says, that even with the shtar, he's not he doesn't acquire it. What are you going to say? Because according to Shmuel says even if there's a document, he doesn't acquire it. So again, why should that be? Why should that be? We should say because he's under pressure, he definitely meant to transfer the ownership, right? Because he was under pressure, he meant to transfer ownership. He meant to properly sell it. There was a shtar here. The Gemora says, the Gemora answers, Shmuel, even though Shmuel says the shtar doesn't work, that's only because there's no money transferred hands. But as soon as there's money involved, everyone, Rav and Shmuel, both agree, that the sale is valid. That means to say, you bought the field or you took the field, whatever, it doesn't matter, from the, I think, he gave it to me, bought it, whatever, from this bandit. You then go back to the original owner, and either you, I think Rosh Hashanah says, or the bandit, it doesn't matter, pay money to the original owner. Then everyone agrees that's a valid sale. And you, the person who bought it from the bandit and have now bought it back from the owner, get to keep the land. And that fits exactly with Rav Huna. Do you understand? That is exactly with Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, sale under duress, where you receive money, is valid because we say that's the point. You are under pressure. You didn't want to do it, but because of the pressure, you thought, oh, fine, because I'm getting money, I'll just go with it. Yeah.
Reluctantly, but it's still a sale.
Yeah, it's still a sale. We seem to be not really interested in your feelings, and that you didn't really want whatever. You agree to it. Your assumption is you agree to it.
But that implies that the price must be right, because if there's anything wrong with the price.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think we're saying there's any concern about the price. Yeah, but the chiddush of Rav is that even if there is no evidence that money changed hands, okay, but there's a shtar, Rav says you would never go so far as to write a shtar, a document in someone's name, unless you were fully with it. Yeah, you were fully with it. You were fully agreed to it. Now, there's one little wrinkle in this, and that is called Rav Bibi. Because if you remember, we mentioned Rav Bibi, and we said that Rav Bibi says the Gemora, the Messiah B'Mashmei Rav Nachman, Rav Bibi finished off the statement in the name of Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman was the one, if you remember, who said that a Gazlan who brings a proof, his proof is no proof. Right? A Gazlan who proves they were sold to him is no proof. But Rav Bibi says, in the name of Rav Nachman, Karka ein lo mo'os yesh lo. The Gazlan doesn't get his land, but he gets the money back that he paid for it.
Yeah.
That's where the Gazlan brings a proof that I bought it fair and square. And how does he prove it? Whatever, he brings a proof. Rav Bibi seems to clearly take on that he paid money, because Rav Bibi says the Gazlan gets his money back. you understand? You have a Gazlan who stole the land and he proves that he actually bought it, that you sold it to me, right? Rabbi Bibi says it's not a proof, but you get your money back. So Rabbi Bibi clearly understood, not like Rav Huna. Rabbi Bibi understood, yeah. In fact, he's talking about money having changed hands, and you are not entitled to the land, but you can get your money back. That means he doesn't agree with Rav Huna. Because Rav Huna says as soon as money changes hand, that's it. Do you follow?
No, yes, sir.
So Rav Bibi seems to take on, again, Rav Nachman said a statement. Rav Nachman said that a Gazlan, a thief, who brings a proof, his proof is no proof. What proof might a thief bring? Like witnesses that this property was actually sold to him, or witnesses that saw the guy who he stole it from admit that it was his. So the two Eidim show up in court and say, I was there when Shimon, who he stole it from, said, I admit this property is yours. I'm mowed it's yours. You understand? Yeah. It's an interesting thing. It's one of the 7 kinyonim we do on Pesach with the goy. You know, we sell the chometz to a goy. We do about 7 kinyonim. One of them is he's moida. What does it mean he's moida? Is the goy says, I admit the chometz is mine. He makes a declaration very simple. He says, I admit it's mine. I think he declares it's his. So I'm happy. Yeah. That's what we want. Or he's something like that. Or he says, I want it to be mine, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so here, but that's all. That is all Rav Nachman's straightforward statement. But Rav Bibi had an extra line. Rav Bibi said that Rav Nachman did not quite say that he doesn't get the land back. Right? Sorry, Rav Bibi said that when Rav Nachman said that the Gazlan brings a proof, his proof is no proof, he does get back the money he says he paid for it. So the Eidim saw, let's say, money change hands. The guy, remember, the Gazlan is a thief. Everyone knows he's the local thief. He's the local thief in town. He walks around with black and white stripes. Everyone knows that he's the local thief. That's not a concern, yeah? We know he's the thief. However, here, he's got witnesses that he paid. Even thieves have good days.
The sale is nullified. Then he gets his money back.
But what do you see from that? That clearly Rav Bibi doesn't agree with Rav Huna. Because according to Rav Huna, once money's changed hands, that's it. You get to keep it. Okay? So that's why this is a bit of a problem. Rav Bibi doing a sign bomb straight of Nachman Kakain and was Yeshlo Michael. What are you going to say? Because according to Rav Bibi seems to clearly dispute Rav Huna. That he says this case is talking about where the money did change hands and yet the sale is invalidated. The answer is very simply Rav Bibi Meimrahu. Rav Bibi is a statement of an Amora. He wasn't quoting a Mishnah. He wasn't quoting a Brisa. He was quoting other Amoraim, right? Other sages of the Gemora. And Rav Huna is not bound to abide by Rav Bibi's statement. Meimor Rav Huna is fairly. He doesn't have to hold like Rav Bibi. He argues with Rav Bibi. And this was the point I made a few shurim ago, that hovering over this sugya is this machlokas in Rav Bibi and Rav Huna. Rav Bibi and Rav Huna stand on opposite sides of the fence on this question of duress. Rav Bibi says that if you sell something under duress, the sale reverts. You get your money back. Rav Huna says you don't. You can't. As long as you paid the right figure and the right amount and everything else, even if it's under duress, the sale is valid. That is the machlokes, Rav Bibi and Rav Huna. So Rav Huna is not worried about Rav Bibi. He disagrees with him. Make sense? Yeah. Let's see the Rashbam. So it's 4 lines where it gets Y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines where it gets Y. Name Agavon see the secret in Gemora marketing. Let's say because of the pressure of the secret coin, he makes the decision to sell it properly. Balabayas, the owner, given the Ogli Zuzi, given the Ogli Zuzi, since he gave him money, and he didn't lose anything. This is the case of where he hung him up and he sold him and he sold it. He sold it. The Gemora says. So what answer that according to Rav, we're talking about where there was no money. Yeah, there was no money changing hands. And even according to Shmuel, it says that there was a shtar, and he doesn't acquire it. We said that Shmuel agrees where there's money. This one who bought him in the Sikakun, when he went and bought it back from the Balabais, he went and paid money to the owner, to Agav the Makabel Zuzi Gomora Makni. Because he's receiving money, he definitely intends it to change hands. The Heinrich Oliuvazov, and that is hanging someone and selling it. But without money, he definitely doesn't agree to transfer the ownership, right? Ravuna was also talking about hanging him and selling it. Ravuna never said if you hung him up and force him to give a gift, that's not a gift. If you string someone up from a tree and you say at gunpoint, that's theft. Yes, that is theft, right? You can't, yeah, that is extortion. Ravuna's Hosra was only when you part with money. Well, Rabbi the Messiah, according to Rabbi who concluded above, Milseder of Nachman, the case of Nachman Domer says, Gazan Shevi Ryan, and also Raya. Rav Nachman says that a thief who brings a proof is not a proof. We don't put the field in his hand. Rabbi and Rabbi added on that the Gazlan, the thief, gets his money back that he gave to the person he stole from. Alma, so we see that Rabbi holds that even if the Gazlan, the thief, gives to the person he stole from money, he doesn't acquire it. If you hang someone up and you sell, it's not a sale. The same thing would apply to this mission of the Sikra Kohen. The Inos on the Sikra Kohen, if the bandit, or the one who bought from it, gave the Balabais to the Balabais Mois. If either the bandit or the person who bought it from him gave the Balabais Mois, he gave money to the Balabais, Dumea Soder, the value of the field, he doesn't acquire it. The Kasha Rav Huna, right? And this is a problem on Rav Huna. Hard to talk inside the air conditioning. You understand? Yeah, this is you understand? It's a contradiction on Rav Huna, right? No, leave it on. It's hot. I'm just talking into it. Huh? Yeah. Right. Okay, so does that make sense? One second, actually, let's just finish the last line. Look on the and that's the problem. The problem is that Rav Bibi seems to contradict Rav Huna because Rav Bibi seems to say that you get your money back. That means it's not a sale. The Gemara answers, it's a statement he said in the name of others. It's not mission or Bryce. So the other Rav Bibi which made enough share. If it was Rav Bibi had said it in the name of himself, he would have said, the Gemara would have said, as it says in many other places, you're asking a person of one man on another, right? You can't do that. You can't ask one Amora from another. That's not a question. You've got to ask from someone more senior, like a Mishnah. Okay, you understand? But Rabbi Bibi didn't say it off his own back. He said it in the name of other Amoraim. But that's not a question on Rav Huna. Rav Huna is happy to dispute that. Sorry, Martin, you had a question?
I'm not making up. There's like this somewhere in the Gemara that Teresh Shota, you own a property and they can't take away the property because you can't take it. And according to Rav Huna, when he gave the Teresh Shota a reasonable value for that, you have to take it. I'm asking a question about something that's precise. The question I'm asking is, do we hold like Rav Huna elsewhere, or is it just in the city? Specifically on this topic.
About being forcing someone.
About a Kenyan actually taking effect, as long as you've transferred the right value.
So I think it's a good question. We're going to see a number of qualifications, I think, or comparisons to Rav Huna in the next sugya, because the sugya carries on. But there's a lot of questions like that around this sugya. How far does this go? How far does this go? This concept of forcing someone and that being a valid sale, right? We're going to see. We're going to see all sorts of things. There is a question. Tosos deals with it. For example, let's say there's no physical pain. You didn't hang him up from a tree, but you forced him financially. I don't know how you know. Forced him to sell. Yeah. And there is a way out. There's a way out. What is the way out? You can write what's called a modo'o. We learned about modo'o. If you know the guy's coming after you to hang you from the tree, you can declare in front of Adam, whatever I do now is not valid. So you do have a way out.
Beforehand.
A modo'o is a declaration you make in advance. I told you with Gittin we do bits on modo'o. and chalitza. And a chalitza recently at the base there. Very few chalitzas. It's only the second one I've ever seen. The first one was like 10 years ago. There have been, I think, since then. And you have to do bittul moedah with chalitza as well. You nullify any declarations that are made outside base and not intend to do it or whatever.
Really wants to do it.
No, that you're not that you're not doing it under duress and things like that, I think, or you're not being forced to do it. But no, you have to do it out of free will. You have to be willingly, fully engaged and want to do this.
Yes, and you can't do it.
No, again, a bittul moedah.
No, I know, I understand, but I always thought you could. No, it wasn't that story they used to wait for him in the mikvah on a Friday afternoon and threaten him if he didn't give a get to his wife. Then
again, there are certain cases limited in halacha, when Beis Din have the power to force, right? It's very specific cases. It's not like a carte blanche. It's very specific things. The Gemora in Kesubos lists them. Certain things where it's considered to be completely unreasonable for her to be expected to live with this guy. And therefore, even though he has to give a get out of free will, based on jurisdiction to put him in such a place where kofen osoi atshi yomeritza ani, you force him if they don't want to. But that's only when those specific cases, there are specific set of circumstances when it's impossible. You can have cases where, for example, the whole thing is what we call a mekach toras, for example, where there were things revealed after they got married that were not known about beforehand. Anyway, so there's all these things. Now, Amar Rava says, Rava says the halacha is like Rav Huna. Bottom of the page, yeah? If you hang someone up and you sell him, the halacha is zvine, it's a valid sale. But he qualifies it. That's only with an unspecified field. Rashbam says, top of the Omid, so they forced him to sell one of his fields. He chose the field. He chose the field that he wanted to sell. Yeah? Since he chose it of his own accord, right? Rosh Bohen Birer. He selected the worst one. He's shown that he doesn't really bother about this field. We assume he definitely wanted to sell it, right? They didn't say which field. They said they hung him from a tree and said, we want to buy one of your fields. And he chose which one. But if they said this field, then the Rashbam says they forced him to sell this field, and he sold that one. He said, we want to buy this field from you, loy. Then we don't say, says Rava, that the halacha is that like Rav Huna. So basically, Rava's going in this following direction. We're going to see other qualifications he's going to make now as well. Rava's basically going down the following line. Rava's saying that in principle, the halacha is like Rav Huna. That means to say, if a person, the logic of Rav Huna is true, and he agrees with the logic that if you do something under duress, you are and you don't lose out financially, it's valid. However, Rava qualifies it and says that's only in where the circumstances are such that we can have other circumstantial evidence that you're happy.
Yeah.
You understand? Like there are other circumstances which lead us and point us in the direction that you were probably okay with this. The first qualification he makes is that you chose the field. So you chose it. Okay, now that's a big difference. Do you understand why? You got 50 fields. Okay, they're hanging you up, they're giving you money, and you choose which one you want to give. So there's a logic there, right? That you made a decision to part with the one that was always waterlogged and dodgy and never really grew any crops anyway, and you're getting money for it. So it's not so bad,
Therefore, you want to sell it.
Correct. That's the thing. Rava is spicing up Rav Huna.
Yeah.
He's making Rav Huna easier to understand.
Yeah.
You're with me? Yeah? Even if he gives this field, though, he says that even if you do a specific field, we only say it's not valid. What does artzi zuzi mean? He didn't count the money. Aval artzi zuzi, but if he the money is appeased by the money, then all bets are off. Then we say it's valid, even if it's this particular field. What does it mean, artzi zuzi? It means that basically you specifically counted up the money, how much money you were receiving, etc. If you didn't count the money and you just said, oh, whatever you're giving me, put it over there. That's another proof that you didn't really want to do it, yeah? That you really didn't want to do it if you're not interested in the money. But if, let's say, there's a transaction that takes place there, and it's true that you're hanging from a tree, but you're counting the money. Your hands are free, and you're counting the money as they give it to you. So you're under duress, but you're actually busy counting the money up. You with me? That is a proof that you are.
It's an indication.
That's an indication. It's not a proof, an indication that you're quite happy with it. I'm on the third qualification, and we also only say that Allah is like Rafana. This only applies when. Sorry, this is all building up on the other two. Even if it's this field and you didn't count the money, we only say it's not a valid sale if you had no way of escaping. That means to say, he wasn't going to take anything else other than the field, the extortionist, right? But if there was a way out, let's say you could have said, give me till tomorrow, wait till my wife comes home, or whatever it was, anything like that, loy, then the halacha is it's a valid sale. So Rafuna is kind of going around these three different criteria. They don't build up one on the other, but basically he sort of narrows down Rafuna to a number of different scenarios. He says that Rafuna only said what he said, or the halacha, no, Rafuna said what he said in all cases, but the halacha is only like Rafuna in a very specific set of circumstances. The halacha is only like Rafuna when you have the following factors present. Number one, it has to be that you had the choice of a field. Because you have the choice of the field, it's logical to say that you actually, more of an indication you're okay with it, right? If you didn't have the choice of a field, you selected a field, you didn't have a choice, they selected for you, you're under duress. And because you're more under duress, right? However, even in that case, it could be that it's valid when you clearly show that you're happy with the money. You're busy counting the money in your money bag. Because you're counting the money, you're happy with it, right? But there can be a scenario where you don't choose the field and you don't count the money, yet it's still valid. When's that? When you had a way out. He left an escape hatch open. That means there's a guy hanging you from the tree, but you could have said, yeah, Jeffrey, wait till tomorrow. My wife's coming home. I must talk to my wife. Yeah, I can't sell a field without water. If there was a way out and you didn't take the way out, then all bets are off. Then the sale is definitely valid. You see, this reveals to us a little bit more of the other side of the story. So we're looking at it, never. Someone is hung from a tree and he's being forced and it's not right. Protect him. What about protecting the buyer? It's very easy for anyone to come along and say, I was forced. He had a gun. I thought he had a gun. You got to look both ways. Do you understand? Protection is necessary for the buyer as well as the seller. We're looking at it like the seller, right? So he was being forced to sell. Because he's being forced to sell, we've got to make sure that we give all this protection for him. But you can have cases where people will take advantage of this. People will say, oh, it was extortion. I didn't really mean it. Yes, it's true. I parted with money, but I didn't really mean to do it. And then you can have you understand? It can't be ways. And you can always have people, and always trying to retract it. Right? We've got to protect buyers as well. In fact, this whole perek is based on protecting buyers. Cheskas habatim, that's what we explained right at the beginning of the perek. The whole assumption of this whole idea of the 3 years is to provide protection for buyers. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
It's kind of see that why in the last 2 years, putting money buying. And if you had a way to get out of it, fine. But buying the worst field when it's about a buy empty field and you buy the worst one. Scratch.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We seem to be saying that because he had the choice and he sold the worst field. I wonder what if he didn't sell the worst field? We're assuming that because he chose the dodgy one, that's self-implication. He's happy with it.
Right.
Yeah.
But what would the buyer take that field?
Why would the buyer take that field? Who? What do you mean? Oh, I don't know why.
So it's the buyer. Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah, the buyer was happy with it, or the buyer had no choice. Point was, did you agree to sell it? You agreed to do that. Now, now the point is that's all Rava's view. But the Gemara says with Hilchasa, Halacha Bekulu, in all these cases, the Havu Zvine Zvine. Interestingly, the Halacha says the Gemara is not like Rava. And the Halacha is in all these cases, it is a valid sale. Vafilu Besodezu. And even if it is this field, and you had no choice over the field, and the Gemara brings a marvelous proof. Do Isha, a woman, Kesodezu Damya, a woman is like this field. When a person gets married, they want to marry that woman. They don't want to marry any woman, most people. Yeah? Okay? V'omar mar or v'omar ameim, a different text here. Tolu of a Kodesh, Kiddush of Kiddushin. If they hang him up, okay, Tolu of a Kodesh, what does that mean? They hang her up, and he performs Kiddushin, and she accepts the Kiddushin. The halacha is that the Kiddushin is valid. The Gemara brings a dissenting view. Ravashi says definitely with a woman it's not valid, that with the marriage is not valid. Who else is Shloka Hogan? He acted completely inappropriately to sort of make her do this under duress. You can see the parallel, right? You see the parallel because it's like a transaction in the same way, right? The Gemara says that with a woman it's definitely not valid Kiddushin because he acted inappropriately. Also Shloka Hogan, but and therefore they act inappropriately with him. Afkinu Rabbanon Kiddushin Minei, and the Rabbanon uproot the marriage from him. And the Gemara asked this question many places in Shas. How can the Rabbanon uproot a marriage? Right? Omalei Ravina Ravashi, Ravina said Ravashi Tinech the Kodesh Bekaspa. I can understand how the Chachomim can uproot a marriage because of this reason that he acted inappropriately. If he carried out the marriage, he conducted the marriage with kesef, like a ring, right? Okay, because Beis Din have the ability to uproot a marriage. We say Hefka Beis Din Hefka, call them Makadesh Adat Rabbanon Makadesh. You understand, right? Yeah. A person gets married, they marry on the basis that the Rabbanon are happy with it. That will make sense if it was a marriage with a kesef. Kodesh b'bia ma'kelevema. What if he used the method of marriage, which is bia, an intimate relationship? What can you say? The Rabbanon made his relationship a relationship of znus. Okay, we won't have time to see all the Rashbam on that today, but basically, there is a machlokas about Kiddushin, we're saying, whether or not Kiddushin is subject to the same rules, whether Rav Hutner's rule about Kiddushin applies to marriage or not, basically, okay? Let's see the Rashbam, top of the page. So we said that we saw these, sorry. It's the last wide line. He didn't count the money. He revealed about Korcha Mekabel. He was definitely accepting it against his will. But even in this field, and he didn't count the money. Even with this field, and he didn't count the money, we only say this way when that's not a sale, when he was not able to escape from the person who's stringing him up, with any pushing away in the world. You go in Hampton Lee, for example, wait for me till tomorrow, or till my wife comes home, or any other pressure, any deflection, he's able to trick the bandit with. If he's able to trick the bandit in any way and he doesn't take that route, then it is a valid sale. But we said that halacha is all of these cases, it's a valid sale. Even in this field, and he didn't count the money, and he couldn't escape. It's a complete onus. It's absolutely duress. Okay, going to Omar Reitza'ani in all these, but when he says Reitza'ani, I'm happy with it. We say it's valid, and the proof is Do Isha. A woman, when a man forces her to accept Kiddushin and to marry him, he only wants to marry her. So it's like this field. But Amr says, we hold as follows, that if she receives Kiddushin, her marriage is valid. The marriage is valid. The domi is zvini. It's like a sale. In that sense, that it's like she's selling herself to him. It's a similar parallel in that way. So he's bringing a proof that just like with Kiddushin, it's a valid marriage, so too it's a valid sale as well. But on the question of marriage, not everyone agrees. So Ravashi Omar, Ravashi is like this. The mecher with a sale, Medina Dovizvini. I agree that it's a sale, like Rafana. I will have an issue with a woman. Tikkun Rabbanon D'Lo have a kiddushin. The Rabbanon instituted with a marriage that is not valid. Do also shloika hogan because he acted inappropriately. Sheikh Richa, he forced her. We act inappropriately with him. Shloika din. The Avagav de Minat Torah, even though Minat Torah le'ova kiddushin, it should be a marriage. Rabbanon akrinim of kiroson. Rabbanon uprooted them and made it hefker, ownerless. V'osu moes matona. They made the money into a gift. In other places, the Gemora says, Mefarsh explains the called Mekadosh does Rabbanon Mekadosh, this idea that everyone married on the basis of the Chazon Chachomim, we say Kedas Moshe Yisrael when you give the ring, right? For Rabbanon Omer lo lava Kiddushin, the Rabbanon said it shouldn't be Kiddushin. Nimtza shlo Kitshozeh. It comes out that he hasn't married her. Shebedas Chachomim Tola, because it's all dependent on the Chachomim wanting it. V'heimenim Chafetzim Kiddushin Alalu. They do not want this marriage. You see, it's an interesting thing. There has to be consent to marry someone. You can't marry someone against their will. It's not like a get, where before the Chaim Rabbeinu Gershom, you could divorce against will. You can't marry someone as well. She has to want to accept the ring and marry you. So how on earth can this work? What's the answer? So the answer is that if you take Rafuna to the logical extreme, which is that if a person, is under pressure and says yes, I agree to it, and they're selling, in the sense they're not losing financially, I'm assuming she's not losing financially in this way, then technically it should be valid. That is what Ma'bar Ravashi disputes. Ma'bar Ravashi says, 1 second, field, woman, not the same. A field, there's logic to say, it's a field. You're getting money, it's under pressure, and you agree to sell it. But with an Isha, it's a different story. When you're getting married, the Chachomim step in and say, you cannot behave like this. And the fact that you acted like this, even if technically min haTorah, it should be a valid marriage, we will make that money, that consideration that you gave, the ring, the money, whatever it is, we will make it hefka. And some of the places the explanation is because, the Rashbam says in other places the Gemora explains, because of this principle of Kol Mekadosh, Das Ron Mekadosh, we say in the words of Kiddushin, we say, behold, you're consecrating me with this ring according to the law of Moshe and Israel. Kedas Moshe Yisrael. Which means we're making the Kiddushin dependent on the it is min haTorah, but the person who gives Kiddushin is saying that the Kiddushin should only be valid if Moshe and Yisrael are happy with it, which means the Chachomim. Like, well, but one says, that's fine if you're using money. Again, money is just the same as a ring, kesef, yeah, right? But if you're marrying through bia, which is the Mishnah says in Kiddushin is one of the 3 ways of marrying, right? We didn't do that now, but the 3 ways of marrying, that's actually the way of marriage. How on earth are you going to say that Chachomim, there's no hefka there, no hefka based in? So on that we say the Chachomim have the power to make his bia sunus. Just see the first few lines of the next Rashbam. Tinach v'kodesh b'kaspa. If you marry with money, Kiddushin. The Chachomim cannot prove the Kiddushin, the hefka based in hefka, because basing to make something hefka can be moment with money. Ukilu kitra begezel. And it's like he's marrying over something with theft, the chomas and extortion damya, right? Chomas is like violence. So over Kiddushin, we can say that it's not a marriage. Al kodesh b'bia. If he's makadosh with bia, with intercourse, also ma'isa b'gufa, it's an act on her body. Hey, chiyur Chachomim shlo take bia. How can the Chachomim say it's not bia? Haribal kor chaynu bia. It definitely is. The answer is Chachomim made it into an illicit relationship, and the Chachomim have the courage to do that. Okay, we're out of time. We'll finish it next time. Correct. The Chachomim can declare the marriage invalid. Yeah. We'll continue Mitzvah next time. We'll see. Hopefully next time we'll try and finish the sugya. Such if we can. I mean, not the whole parak, but try and finish the sugya. Okay, very good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. The comment to make those answers, they're really accessible.
Yeah.
Does that help?